Hello and welcome to our next video about trigonometry. Today we are going to be finding the sides of triangles using trigonometry. To do this you need a calculator. So if you do not have your calculator out, take some time and get it out right now. I'll pull mine up here. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your calculator is in degree mode. Now I'm going to be using a TI-84. Most of the TI models work a very similar way. If you're using a Casio or a calculator on your phone, you might have to look up on your own how to change this, okay? But the first thing you need to do is make sure your calculator is in the correct mode. The mode you need to be in is in degree mode. So if you hit the button right here, it says mode, right next to the second button, it brings up this menu. You want to use your arrow keys and go down to where it says radian degree right here. And you want to switch it over to degree. So highlight degree and then hit enter. If your calculator is not in the correct mode, it will not output the answer that you need. So first, make sure your calculator is in degree mode. Okay, so once you have put your calculator into degree mode, then we're going to actually do a few examples. And before we do that, let's review. So we've talked about trig a lot. So remember this acronym, SOHCAHTOA, meaning sine of your angle is the opposite over the hypotenuse. Your cosine of your angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. And then your tangent of your angle is your opposite over your adjacent. Keep this in mind because you're going to have to use trigonometry to set up your equations that you will eventually put into your calculator. So let's look at an example. We're going to have a right triangle because again, the trigonometry that we are doing only deals with right triangles. I'm going to say that this angle measures 37 degrees. This side is 10, and I want to know what this side measures. So that's my x, that's my variable. So first, I always look at the angle that I'm given, in this case the 37 degrees, and look at my side measures and determine how they are related to this angle. So first, this 10 is the hypotenuse, and then x is opposite the 37. So that would be my opposite. So the trig ratio that deals with the opposite side and the hypotenuse would be sine. So here's how you write it. Take the time to write it down properly. That will almost guarantee that you put in your calculator properly. So you do your sine of your angle, which measures 37, has to be equal to the ratio of the opposite side over the hypotenuse. So in this case, your opposite side is your x over your hypotenuse, which is 10. Now, solve this equation. Don't put anything into your calculator until the very last step. So you want to multiply to get rid of this fraction. So you'll multiply both sides by 10. So x equals 10 times the sine of 37. And that's when you go to your calculator. You're going to type 10 times the sine of 37. And again, your angle is in degrees, so your calculator needs to be in degree mode. And then it's going to give you an answer. And this answer is probably going to be a very long, unpleasant decimal. That's fine. Just round to the nearest hundredth or tenth, whatever the decimal place or whatever the directions tell you to do. So in my case, I'm going to say that x equals 6.02. All right, let's do another one. So we'll say this angle measures 63 degrees. I'll say that this side measures 5, and I want to know what this side measures. So again, think about your acronym. And think about the relationship of these two sides with labels to your angle that you're given. So x is the opposite, and 63 is the adjacent. So the trig ratio that deals with the opposite and adjacent is tangent. So you're going to write tangent, then you write your angle, so tangent of 63 equals, and then opposite, which is your x, over your adjacent, which is 5. And now we multiply both sides by 5 to get rid of the fraction. So 5 times the tangent of 63 equals x. And now go to your calculator. 5 times the tangent of 63. And I have 9.81. And let's do one more just to be safe. I want to do one where we have an x in the denominator. We'll say that angle measures 32 degrees. We have the hypotenuse is x, and then this side is 5. How about 7? So again, think about your acronym, SOHCAHTOA. And think about your sides in relation to this angle. So in relation to angle 32, we have x is the hypotenuse, and then we have 7 is the adjacent side. So we have the adjacent a and h, so this time we are doing the cosine, the ka. So now you write cosine, then of 32 equals 7 over x. Now, since x is in the denominator this time, you have to do a little bit of extra thinking. Usually, I multiply to get rid of the fraction. And the x's cancel, which is what I want to happen. So now I have x times the cosine of 32 equals 7. Now be aware that the cosine of 32 is some number, so you don't want to just divide by 2 or just divide by cosine. You are going to divide to get x by itself by the cosine of 32. So in your calculator this time, you will type in x equals 7 divided by the cosine of 32. 7 divided by the cosine of 32. And hit enter. And you get 8.25. So x equals 8.25. And a lot of times when you do this, if you were to do it wrong, you would kind of maybe get some kind of like weird red flag, like perhaps your hypotenuse ends up being smaller than the side you're looking for or something like that. So just always be aware of your situation and make sure that it makes sense based on what you have. That's all I have for you today. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions, and as always, make good choices.